Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. I have been looking forward to doing this show for years now. Ever since I got back into vinyl, I've been thinking about my old childhood record player, which is this right here. And if you want to see the backstory on how I acquired this, check out the Mission Episode 1 and Mission Episode 2 videos we did this past Friday. And it gives you some insight as to how I was able to finally get a hold of this. Now, it's not super rare. I mean, you can go on eBay and there's many of them. Even on Craigslist, they turn up from time to time. But I was able to get this without any cash out of pocket. It was a trade, straight up trade deal. And this one's in pretty good condition. And we're going to give it a complete review and all that good stuff. And now, this particular record player may or may not be of interest to you specifically. However, I'm sure there is a record player or some kind of something that has tremendous sentimental value to you as well. As we go through this, I want you to think about what that might be, and I want you to send me pictures of email, or even better yet, just comment below in the comment section and let me know what was so incredibly sentimental to you. This is one of about 3 or 4 things that stand out in my mind as being incredibly sentimental from my childhood. And you know, it's not the thing so much as it is the memories behind it. You know, my mom, my dad bought this for me, and one thing we had a lot of in our house was music. My parents are both very accomplished musicians and singers, and if we weren't listening to live music, and I remember just sitting there playing with my Legos on the floor as they had these jam sessions, if we weren't doing that, then we were enjoying music in recorded form. So I remember listening to my dad's old 45s. He was a radio disc jockey, and we had a big stack of records, and I would play them on this record player. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get into this review, guys. It's so special, I'm even breaking out the old intro so we can enjoy it together. You're not going to want to miss this.
This is Record-ology.
Okay, so when you first hear Fisher Price record player, Fisher Price turntable, you're thinking about this. This was a toy. It's really a music box. The little discs actually had little prongs, like a music roll, music box, like a little wind-up deal, and they would play music back. The tone arm itself contained essentially a music box mechanism, and then the discs had the little prongs sticking up to play the individual songs based on the location and the timing of those prongs. And I'm probably using all the wrong terminology, but this was essentially a toy, a musical toy. However, this, my friends, is an actual phonograph. This was made for Fisher Price. They didn't make it themselves, and it was actually designed to be a usable, rugged turntable. And I think it was so well designed that that's why there's so many around 40 years later, because this was first released in 1978. There was a later blue version, which I did have the blue version at first, but it didn't last very long, like a day or two, and then my mom had to take it back, and I ended up getting this one. So this is the one I had for years and years. All right, let's take a look around the outside. This raised area is for the tone arm. The handle is, this is actually brilliantly designed all the way around. Everything is designed for some kid's grubby little hands to not be able to destroy it, which is tricky considering a record player, a turntable is a precision item. So, the case holds itself together if you grab the handle. Everything is very rugged. There's no audio outputs or inputs. You can't connect it to anything. This is genuinely a self-contained unit. On the bottom, the cord wraps up inside itself, which is, genius. And even the screw holes are a proprietary type so that kids can't open this up accidentally or intentionally. All right, big reveal, guys. Aww. This is so nostalgic, just the sight of all these colors and textures, patterns. This particular one happens to have how to replace its cartridge in it. These actually have diamond needled styli, which is kind of surprising, and you can still buy them, new old stock, but they can be replaced. I have so many memories, you guys, of this, and what a unique design. It's got this smooth plastic platter, and there's no rubber grips or anything. This is just hard, smooth plastic. What an interesting idea versus, having some rubber grips, but it, grips the record fine. This may be the most genius part of all. The 45 adapter is built into the platter. When you don't need it, you rotate it down. When you do need it, you rotate it up, and it snaps into place. Think about this. Kids can't lose it. It's built in. It's always there, and it's always available. And it works perfectly. I think this is an idea that, other turntable manufacturers should consider using. That's genius. Absolutely genius. Like I said, everything is super rugged, so you can't you know, this is rigid. You can't, you know, jack anything up by, you know, putting your heavy weight on there or putting your hands on there, as you know kids were doing. The volume knob is a simple, grippy, not really grippy, it's a knobbed plastic wheel. I love the colors here, the brown, the orange, the red. It's so 70s, early 80s. On and off switch is built into the speed control, so it's either 45, 33, there's no 78. And then this tone arm is also genius in the way it's designed. It may look, you know, super plasticky, which it is, but you can't damage the needle. So you lift, it's got a lift right here, you can rotate it over, and then it rests right here. Why is this genius? Let me show you. Let's take a closer look. So there's the stylus and cartridge assembly under there, and you'll notice that it recesses very easily. In fact, when it lays in the rest, what it's really doing is pushing up on the back side of this and then therefore pulling the needle out of harm's way. So it's designed so that when the needle is playing on the record, even if a kid pushes down on it, it'll quickly recess without scratching the record because it recesses back up. Yet there's enough tension, just enough, that if it just balances, it stays down, but it recesses back up. That is absolutely genius engineering, you guys. And again, testament to why so many of these are around to this day. And the last thing is the sound system, which is speaker. Obviously it's mono. It's not a hi-fi thing, but it's a functioning record player. So without further ado, let's go. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to show you. So this lid, and this is actually really genius. So the lid, if you remember, it has this kind of raised area right here. Why did they do that? And then there's this plastic thing right here. It's designed so that if the kid leaves the tone arm over here, when you put the lid back on, it scoots it back automatically because this piece pushes the tone arm back. So just by putting the lid on, it puts that tone arm back into the rest. And then like I showed you before, it pushes up on that cartridge to get it out of the way so you can't touch it. As a kid, I shamelessly and multiple times remember dragging my finger across that needle because I like the scratchy noise it made coming out of the speaker. So let's go ahead without further ado and plug it in and give it a listen. Now it seems to me that there used to be quite a bit of electronics that had cords wrapped up underneath like this. It's a pretty smart thing to do, actually. It's physically attached. I mean, you're not gonna, I mean, you could go in there and take it apart and replace it, but yeah, interesting. Let's go ahead and give it a listen here. All right, guys, I actually have some of my dad's 45s from his DJ days. This is a small piece of them. It's still a pretty sizable stack, but this is gonna be a good way to test it out. So let's put on some Johnny Cash, and we're gonna put the 45 adapter up. Almost everything I played on this thing was a 45, although I did have a couple of LP records, but primarily I was using these 45s. So we're gonna flip it, or put it over there to 45. Listen to the rumble. Why does it rumble? I'll tell you in a minute. This is not a belt-driven turntable, nor is it a direct drive turntable. It is something else. It shares a common feature of the dual turntables, of which, boy, did we have a project of that last year. But it shares a drive mechanism designed from that. Okay, let's listen to this, guys. And it's even got a little line on the front of the tone arm so you know where the stylus is, where to drop it. Ooh, a noisy knob. This potentiometer, this volume control is so corroded probably that trying to get contact so we can get music out is proving tricky. Come on. The needle actually sounds fine. It's the volume control. That's tricky. Okay, well, it's a good excuse to open it up, take it apart, see how it works, and fix this dirty volume control. These corrode over time, so you can use contact cleaner or alcohol or something, clean that out. So we're gonna do that. Now there are other videos about taking these apart that I've seen before. The trickiest thing is going to be, again, those screws that on the bottom are designed so that a kid can't take them apart. Now take a look at these screws. Hard to see, but as you can tell, it's a weird screw tip. It's like it has a name for it too. But basically, we need a screwdriver that has a tip with the edges extended down in a star shape and the center raised. This is designed to keep kids out of this unit, which it's doing because I'm still a kid at heart and I can't get into my record player. So we're gonna have to get creative. There was another YouTuber who was able to file down an Allen wrench with a hacksaw to work. So I'm gonna try that. This ought to be an interesting show. While I'm down here, this thing is actually in remarkable cosmetic condition. There is a, part of the where the lid attaches was busted, so the lid comes off a little goofy. And then there's missing foot right here, rubber foot, which I have a few extra of those, just generic ones. So I'll fix that up. But next thing we need to do is get inside this, fix that noisy volume control. So let me look and see what kind of tools I have. Okay, now for the super annoying part. Somehow I've been blessed with hundreds of different bits. But this is a specialty bit we need. And inevitably, none of the ones that I have are the right kind. So I was right, we're gonna have to make our own bit. And I think the best way to do that is like the other guy did with a Allen wrench and a hacksaw. So this is gonna be time consuming. I'm not gonna make you guys watch it because it's probably gonna be the least fun part of this entire process. But basically I need to form it into the right tip with the 3 blades and the raised center? No, the recessed center and the raised edges. So this ought to be interesting. Be right back with you. I wish I could skip instantly to having this done because I'm really not looking forward to this, but here we go. Okay, so that was even more annoying than I thought it would be. So I started with a flathead screw and like a roofing nail, and I clipped it in 3 places and then used pliers and a variety of things to pry up 3 pointed corners. And then it was too wide, so I put it in my drill bit and sanded it down using some concrete and just spun at a really high rate of speed. My plan is now to put it in a vise like this. Really hard to do while filming. And make this my makeshift screwdriver. So wish me luck. It's gonna take some luck, you guys, but hopefully this will do the trick because this internet is full of 40-year-old men trying to figure out how to open this thing up by making tools and things, and apparently this bit or this actual tool is next to impossible to come across. All right, here goes nothing. You do feel it grip, so hopefully we're actually making contact. It's hard to see if that's really happening or not. Are we really making contact or not? I kind of think not. I don't think I'm making any contact. I mean, I think it's making contact, but I don't think it's actually doing anything. But then trying to get it to actually leverage is tricky. All right, I'm gonna keep working off camera. Okay, so far I've got 2 of these monsters out, and I'm gonna have to make another bit because my old bit, as you can see, is completely mangled. So what I do is I take a nail head, clip the edges, and then use a hacksaw to saw it down all the way to the middle. Then I take pliers and a vise and bend up the edges like that. So it seems to get the screw started, and then I can finish it off with a regular flathead screwdriver just very carefully. So, but the other thing too is this is way too wide of a diameter to fit down in those holes. So I'm gonna need to attach this to the drill next and then file the width or the diameter of this down to about 50%. And then it should fit down in the hole, and hopefully these little blades will grab it and get it started. Okay, I'll check back in with you guys. By the way, hours are going by. This is not a fun part of the project for me. It's kind of fun, but I'd rather get to the record player stuff. After literally 4 hours, I finally got it out. So these screws are, in fact, now that I got them out, I can show you up close. Basically, the screw is a Phillips head. Let's see if I can get it in focus there. So it's inverted, so it's raised in the center and recessed on the edges. It makes for a very challenging project, let me tell you what. So I had all 4 of these to remove and then these last 2, and man were they tricky. So we should be able to remove it all now. Taking this off, and there we go. There is the underside of the unit. Now, okay. Feed this through here. All right, let me set up again and we'll get a better angle. It's really interesting. It's actually pretty simple, but it's super rugged and interesting. So this is an idler drive turntable. It's not belt driven, it's not direct drive. We'll take a look under the platter on the other side in a minute. But so here is the motor and power supply. It's interesting, the power supply is right next to the motor. So it is either, I think it's an AC synchronous motor actually. I don't think it's converted back to DC. But anyway, it spins a wheel that spins the inside of the platter. We'll take a look at that. Here is the speaker. Here is the tone arm assembly right here, and the corresponding speed selector switch. As you can see when you turn it on or flip it to 45. I'll show you guys how that works exactly in a minute on the other side. But what we're here for, all of that work, and I actually wasn't planning on doing this unless we needed to, was to get down here to this dirty, noisy volume control. By the way, whenever you have something off like this, first of all, don't do this. But see these guys right here? These are called capacitors or caps, and they store electricity. So there's voltage in there, and sometimes even little caps like that can kill you if you touch them. So do not touch the caps. Better yet, don't even take it apart. But let's take a look closer at this volume control and go from there. Okay guys, so here is another look at that pot or potentiometer. It's basically connected to the volume control here. So what's happening inside of there is there's a little finger that rotates around there and creates a variable resistance. So this is very simple. You got 2 caps, you've got that little, I believe it's an 8-pin integrated circuit, that little chip there. That's the amplifier, if you can believe it. But then again, the speaker over here is only a 1.5 watt, I think it's an 8 ohm speaker. It says BOGO Korea. It's a very simple device. So what we're going to do next is we need to get to the potentiometer. So we can lift this whole assembly out of this rest here very carefully, and that'll give us better access. Again, don't touch the caps. Even if it's unplugged, they still store voltage. So you can shock and kill yourself. Oops, as I touch it. You can shock yourself even after it's been unplugged for some time. So just stay away from those. So see that little opening down there inside of the pot there? That should allow us access to blast some contact cleaner in there or something. So we're going to take a look at that and see. I don't have any contact cleaner, so I'm going to have to go pick some up, but that's probably what's going to be best in order to clean that out and lubricate it. All right, we're going to start by just putting some alcohol down in there and working it around. This is very typical over time for these to develop issues and to need cleaning. I'm hoping the alcohol is enough to do it. Definitely feel it loosening up in there, so hopefully it's a lot less gummy than it was. I don't want to have to rewire anything. Okay. Oh, that definitely feels better. Okay, moment of truth. I just kind of clamped it back together. It's not really attached, but let's see if this volume control, which seems a lot more free now, works. So if I turn the record player on. Jeepers creepers. Okay, back under the hood. Okay, I think I got it squared away. Actually, I think we did fix it. It just took some while for the alcohol to work its way around. Because it cleared up. Now I think it needs a needle, which I'm probably not going to pursue unless one falls into my lap. Last time I had to work it a little bit, and then it popped in really loud. Okay, I lubricated the heck out of everything, cleaned everything up in here. I'm going to pull off this little pin. It's like a little cotter pin that's holding on the platter, because I want to show you the drive mechanism and really how these work. It's really interesting. With that removed, we can put the back on. Now you may be thinking I'm insane by having it face down without the cover on to protect that tone arm. See this raised area? Protects the tone arm. It's literally, they've thought of everything, including idiots like me. Okay, so here unplugging the unit now. Here is the platter. And let's take a look underneath here. This is super interesting. Okay, like I said before, it is neither belt driven nor is it direct drive. It uses an idler wheel like an old dual turntable. Basically, the motor that we saw on the other side is connected to this wheel. It's got a layer of rubber. And by the way, these have a tendency to harden or, totally fall apart, demulsify over time. This one feels like it's doing okay. And one way you can tell if it's slipping or not is when the platter's on and spinning, just lightly put your finger on the platter. And if you can stop it very easily, then you know that this is probably needing some attention. However, this one had really good torque still, so I think that this wheel's making good contact. So this little shaft right here, that pulley, that is these are just anchor points for the motor and the power supply. But this pin right here sticking out is the drive shaft. So when you move this latch over here, it forces that idler wheel into position and touching this, which is a constant speed velocity motor. Now you'll notice sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up. That's because there's two thicknesses on that shaft. Let's look a little closer. Okay, you'll notice it's touching the upper part of the shaft, which is a little bit narrower than the bottom, and that's 33 RPM. And if we go down to 45, it touches the lower, wider part, which is 45 RPM. That means that it can change speeds without the motor having to change speeds. It's just all done by gear ratios. And that's that. And then the other end of this is obviously touching the inside edge of that platter. And so it's literally spinning the platter from the edge. And that's how it works. There's not much else to it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lubricate the spindle hole. I'm going to clean this up a bit. It's a little bit dusty. It's got 40 years worth of grime in there. Maybe put a little lubricant on that motor. It was a little noisy. And I'm going to put it back together. I'm going to use different screws this time so we can replace these old child-proof screws, because if I ever do decide to get in there with some real contact cleaner or something, it would be a nightmare to have to deal with these again. So we're going to go ahead and put in some normal Phillips screws to replace them. But that's pretty much what there is to it. So it's a simple device, very rugged device, very nostalgic. Of course, as a kid, I never saw any of this stuff. It's only recently through YouTube videos that I've been able to see how these are put together. And it's a very simple device, you guys. I mean, pretty much all there is to it is a motor, one circuit board that has one IC, two caps, a couple of resistors, one pot, and a speaker. And the wires going from the cartridge, that's a red and black wire braid right there. It's so simple. It's a completely simple device. And for the most part, it's still working 40 years later. Okay, let me go ahead and finish cleaning it up, put it back together, lubricate it, all that good stuff. We'll give it one final listen. Well guys, it works. It's nothing that I did because the volume knob is still acting the way it was. Although it is a little looser, but most of the time it goes like this, where it seems like it shorts out and then it comes back to life. So I don't know if there's a short somewhere. Maybe it is the stylus needs replacing, but usually you get this, which is not much. And then all of a sudden it sounds like it shorts and now the volume knob is working. So I don't know, but yeah, it's working now. I mean, my voice probably sounds like I've been through it, because I'll tell you what, started working on this 8 hours ago. By the way, it's been about 2 hours since I started trying to put the screws in. I was going to cut, a slot across the top and turn them into a flathead to put them back in. That didn't work. The metal was way too hard. So I ended up just putting them in very slowly with a little eyeglass screwdriver, and I got them in pretty much. A couple are a little loose still, but that'll have to be something to follow up on later. So listen to this. When it starts playing, it's like shorted out. And then you find like the sweet spot where it pops, and then all of a sudden the volume gets louder again. So not sure exactly why that is, you guys, but if I fiddle with it long enough, I can get it to short back into the right way, whatever that is. So anyway, there you go, guys. Fun project, at least to start off with. I'm just so done with it now. So put it on the shelf. Someday I'll probably pick it up again and pick up where I left off. And it definitely works. I mean, it's also not like I need to restore this thing to a daily driver. I'm not going to sit here and use this as my daily record player, and it is awesome to have, and it's very nostalgic to see it again, so I'm very thankful for that. I wish it was easier to get it in perfect working order, but it's 40 years old. How many of us after 40 years are in perfect working order? And this is no different. So perhaps another show, I'm sure this will be in another show down the road. I'm not going to get rid of it. I hope I can continue to improve it, and I'm glad it does work. Oh man, I shouldn't have been playing this record. Check this out. Not only is there a chip, but there's a hefty split right there. Not exactly a good thing to drag your stylus over. Pretend you didn't see that. All right guys, that's gonna do it for today. We've got a lot of videos coming up over the next week because if you remember, I'm in this challenge where I need to produce at least 2 videos a day in addition to our regular videos. So I will be doing quite a bit of content, hopefully some how-to videos, things that are helpful. We'll have to see. But that's enough for now, guys. Happy record listening and hunting, if it's safe to do so and you're legally allowed to. That's all for today, guys. See you next time.